Welcome to the Heartshot Outdoors podcast. Our podcast is designed to help and entertain hunters in their pursuit of game. On this podcast, we will tell stories, talk hunting gear, and bring you the info you need to be successful in your adventures. Once in a while, we will bring on a special guest to shed a little bit of light on our topic. My name is John Lockwood, and this is the talented and beautiful Courtney Miller.
Hey, guys.
So, Courtney, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm just your average, everyday, small-town, 22-year-old gal who fell in love with the outdoors from a really young age. I grew up with an older brother, so I might as well have been the little boy, so to speak. I'm from a large family of hunters, anglers, a trapper, and even a taxidermist for a mom. So I kind of lucked out having great mentors, and I do a lot of whitetail, turkey, small game, predator, and as of the last couple years, elk hunting as well. And I'm from a very small town of Long Prairie, Minnesota, so basically central Minnesota. I've probably been dabbling in hunting since I was legally old enough, I guess. Of course, I grew up on a BB gun and a shotgun for the most part, but I wouldn't say I truly started hunting until a few years ago when I graduated college and really made it a priority in my life. As for my experience in the outdoor industry, I've actually worked professionally in advertising, marketing, and public relations in the outdoor industry for nearly 3 years. It started with an internship while I was in college, and I got hired as soon as I graduated, and so I've just been working in the outdoor industry ever since. And however, one of the other ways I stay really involved is through my volunteer work. I've been volunteering with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation for the last 2 years, and then I also just started volunteering with Pheasants Forever this year as well. And aside from that, I just run my own Courtney Ray Outdoors, which is mostly just a social media platform where I share all about my outdoor adventures with an audience of about 35,000 outdoors men and women. Thanks to the platform, I've teamed up with some awesome companies. So yeah, it definitely keeps me busy. And if I could hunt only one animal, it would probably be elk. They're by far the most majestic beings I've ever encountered, and no animal has humbled me more or engulfed me with more emotions at one time. Plus, elk meat is one of my favorites. So how about you, John? Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, so I guess I'm not as cool as Courtney. Courtney is way cooler than me. She has got some incredible social media stuff going on. But I do have a little bit of experience as well. But my experience is more on the video production side of the outdoor industry. I'm from Iowa and born and raised. Absolutely, it's definitely my favorite state. And I grew up hunting turkeys first. I remember my dad took me turkey hunting for the first time when I was I think 9. Turkey hunting and pheasant hunting was kind of my big thing. And then I really got into deer hunting, and that has really become my passion. I just love archery hunting for whitetails. Let's see, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I got started filming my hunts and working in that arena and just kind of looking for a way to put myself into the outdoor industry. And I eventually ended up getting an internship working with Risen Media, creating a couple different TV shows, Hallowed Ground Outdoors and Full Draw Adventures. So that was a really exciting time for me, and just kind of how I got my feet wet in the outdoor industry. And if I could only hunt one animal, man, it would, elks. I've always wanted to go elk hunting. I've never been elk hunting before, but when we go out west every once in a while for turkey hunting, we pick up elk sheds and we see elk around, and I love photographing elk. So, man, I hope one day I can go elk hunting, but whitetail would, if I could only hunt one animal for the rest of my life, it would be whitetail deer. I'm completely ate up with it, and I love everything about it. So, well, this is our first podcast, but we have a great topic for you guys today. We're going to discuss how to best introduce hunters to the outdoors, and we will end with something that we think our viewers will enjoy, a recommendation of some kind. And that could be anything from hunting gear to a movie or a song that we enjoy. And we would like our listeners to submit questions to us that they would like us to answer on our mailbox segment. You can submit those questions at our Facebook page, Heartshot Outdoors, or you can send it to our email, heartshotoutdoors.com, and you can contact us through both of our social media accounts. We will be bringing on guest speakers and going more in depth into our topics. We hope to be an entertaining as well as informative podcast for anyone interested in the outdoors. So with that, let's get right into our topic today, tips for first timers. And we got 5 tips for you here today, and we're just kind of going to run through those. So what's the first tip,
Yes, we do.
Courtney?
All right. So tip number 1. It's all about getting access to land. I mean, if you don't already have land, then you need some so that you can get out there, whether you're, target shooting, you're trying to get into shed hunting, whatever it is, you need access to good land. And so public land is absolutely the way to go if you don't already have access to your own private land. Now, the tricky part, depending on where you live and whatnot, is finding that land. And it's not always as easy as you might expect. A lot of public land isn't clearly marked, nor is a great deal of private land always distinguishable from public ground. So another option, though, if you're willing, is the door-to-door method. So maybe you have neighbors or family friends who have great hunting land. All you have to do is waltz on over to their place, knock on the door, and simply ask them for permission to hunt whatever species you want. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no, and that's totally okay.
Have you ever had to do that before?
Oh, absolutely. And I've had people say no. This one lady told me that she loved her turkeys so much she didn't want me hunting them. And I tried to gently explain, we can only take 1 turkey in Minnesota. And, you have tons of babies. Like, you can't kill the babies. And then, she just loved her turkeys. So I let it go, which that happens all the time.
That does happen.
I mean, she wasn't anti-hunting. The woman loved her turkeys. So
right.
that's what it is.
I've gotten rejected a couple times before. In Iowa, some of the cities have like an urban hunt that you can do.
Oh yeah.
And I'm from Dubuque, and so that urban hunt was like how since I lived in the city, it was like I couldn't really drive, 20 minutes out to go to my hunting spot.
Yep.
I would much rather hunt close to home. So I tried to do the in-city hunts, and I knocked on a bunch of doors and just got a whole bunch of no's. And
you have to get used to being rejected. You have to
Right.
get over that and then just go and do it. I'm still nervous sometimes when I do
Right.
it because it's just how it is. But another thing with that is I would recommend bringing a card with your name on it of some kind, or make a note and then put your contact info on it, and even the season date of the species that you're hunting, so that they'll have a record of when you're going to be there, and that way they can get a hold of you if they need to. And then one other thing with that, a great way to make it easy is, for example, I purchased Onyx Maps Hunt, which will enable you to easily access and identify all sorts of public land holdings and then navigate them with confidence, knowing that you're not trespassing anywhere you shouldn't be. That is a huge deal. Landowners are going to get really mad if you are on their land and you shouldn't be. And you can also get in trouble with DNR and whatnot, and you don't want to get any licenses revoked and get in trouble. So Onyx Maps provides maps for every device, GPS, mobile, computer, in all 50 states. So you'll be able to see landowner names with property boundaries, color-coded public and private lands, game management, hunting units, roads, and more. So I've used it for everything from my Colorado elk hunt to scouting turkey land in Long Prairie, Minnesota. So, and finding shed hunting land. So it's really easy to predetermine locations and plan it out in advance instead of driving around aimlessly hoping to come across some public land.
Right.
So
yeah, I hunt a lot of public land in Iowa. And one of the things that's kind of frustrating is that there's not always a sign there
absolutely.
to let you know when, and also like if you shoot a deer and it goes onto somebody's land, you don't
Yep.
just want to waltz onto their land. You'd
Yep.
like to contact the property owner.
So the perfect thing with that is if you have Onyx Maps, like I have the app on my phone as well as the chip for my GPS when I'm elk hunting, but I will just whip up the app on my phone when I'm out there. I did it last year when I was turkey hunting because some turkeys looked like they might have gone off the property line, but I wasn't sure. And my dad and I were kind of spot and stalking. And I pulled up the app and I was like, oh, shoot, we're literally like right on the line. I mean, had we kept going, we would have been on someone else's land who had already told me no to hunting. And then also if a deer goes and runs, you can pull up the app on your phone or whatever, and then you can look and see, and it will give you the landowner name so that you can see where they live and go up to them, their house, and ask permission knowing their name and their information. So it can be really helpful. You need to know your stuff.
I think I need to get that app.
No, I think you do too. It's great, especially out west and stuff too when you're hunting new areas, but it's good to find the land ahead of time and, kind of have a game plan, so to speak.
So, all right. So we got the public land down. I think another good tip, it's important to find a good mentor. And for me, that was my dad. My dad was the person who taught me how to hunt, and taught me the hunter safety and everything. I remember he taught me how to shoot my first gun. But for a lot of you, that might not be, maybe your dad didn't teach you how to hunt, or for some reason your dad isn't your hunting mentor. There are I know tons of hunters that want to introduce people to the outdoors.
Absolutely.
I think that's just part of being a hunter, is being able to introduce people to the outdoors.
Share the legacy all the way. Hunting is only going to keep going. The traditions have to get shared to younger generations. So absolutely.
Absolutely. So really, I would just find someone that hunts and ask them. Ask them to take you hunting. Ask them to introduce you to the sport. A lot of times, people will just let you come along with them. And so, whether you're interested in turkey hunting or deer hunting, or some upland bird hunting, or even, fishing too. It's like any of those things, people just, I don't know anybody that wouldn't say, yeah, I'd love to take you hunting. I'd love to introduce you to the outdoors. It's a tradition that we just absolutely love in the United States, and something that people are always eager to pass on.
And don't be afraid to get a little pushy, because,
Right.
Honestly, he's right. We love taking new people out and sharing the experience with them, and that's what keeps the traditions alive. So be a little pushy. Don't be afraid. Again, what's the worst that's going to happen? Someone might say no.
Right.
But most of the time, they're going to say yes. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So that was number 2, finding a good mentor. Let's move on to number 3. I would call this getting involved. One really great way to meet more hunters and anglers is by volunteering with organizations like I have, including Pheasants Forever and Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So I've made so many amazing connections, especially with the older generations who, by the way, have tons to teach, even if they're old-fashioned. Like he said, my dad taught me everything I know and still is whooping my butt and teaching me every year. So it's really good to have, those older generations of people to teach us. And so that's happened for me simply by volunteering at banquet events and planning meetings, and it's just a really great way to network and learn more at the same time. Plus, you're helping a really good cause, more than likely, whether that's the Mule Deer Foundation or, like I said, Pheasants Forever, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. You're helping a good cause, and you're going to meet some amazing people on the way. So I definitely recommend that.
Now, I've done a little bit of volunteering, but probably not as much as you have. And I know you said that you've volunteered with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Yep.
What kind of stuff do you do when you volunteer? What does that look like?
Yep. So I contacted the head guy in Minnesota. I just looked him up on the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation website, shot him an email, and he got back to me. And he's actually had me, I don't know, I kind of feel like his assistant in a way. I've traveled across Minnesota to different Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation banquets. I've gone to the planning meetings, which are in those individual towns, little or small, and you're sitting there, going through catalogs with the team members of that banquet, and you're figuring out, what do we want at the next banquet, so that we can get the people who come to the banquet, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation members, really involved in the banquet, and, how do we raise the most money for conservation for Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation? So,
and where does that money go when that's raised?
It goes directly to Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So there's a ton of different projects that they're doing, from land management, and they're restoring elk herds across the country. They've raised thousands and thousands of acres for public land hunting. Like last year when I went on my elk hunt with my dad and my uncles in Colorado, one of the places that we hunted, we only had access to that land thanks to Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, because they kind of had like a bridgeway where they worked with landowners so that we can get to that public land, because it was landlocked. So it's organizations like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation who open access to that public land for elk hunters and, other hunters and conservationists. So yeah, it's really great. And I stay busy by doing that volunteer work. It is volunteer work, but we all say that we're busy, but we can all make time for the things that are important. So
right. I think I've done some teaching at camps and done some work in that area, and it's always interesting to watch kids come in for the first time, and maybe they've never shot a shotgun before, or maybe they're just beginning to be really interested in the outdoor industry. And I always think it's fun to watch the kids learn, and it's a serious sport in some ways, but it's also just an incredibly fun sport. And and through that volunteering, you really get to see that aspect.
Yep.
And you get to see just kind of people absorbing the outdoors in a way that they never have before. So that's a really good point. And I think a good point for point number 4 is do your homework. There is a lot of information out there, and there's, everything from magazines to YouTube channels to podcasts like this one,
social media.
Yep. There's a million different sources of information out there, and there's a need for it, and a lot of it's free, honestly. So for first timers, I think that a big thing that you can do is to go learn stuff online. Just go learn stuff in your free time, and if you're interested, oftentimes it doesn't feel like homework. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, and there's some really great sources out there. I know I listen to there's some really smart people in the outdoors. There's websites that are dedicated to deer management, like Quality Deer Management.
Yep.
And there's Growing Deer TV. That's another website that I really enjoy reading. And some more informative stuff would be like Drury Outdoors. They have like, I don't know how many TV shows, but each and every one of them, they're teaching you something about how the deer move and how to hunt the deer, and kind of, weather situations and patterning deer. So all of those things are important to learn if you're going to go deer hunting. And so those sources can be very helpful for first timers and people that are getting interested. And then YouTube, I think, is probably my favorite place to go if I don't know something. So I go right to YouTube, and we're going to put out some content this year, hopefully, that can help you guys advance your hunting and make you better hunters, as well as kind of just give you some new facts, maybe some things that you haven't heard before. And we'll just kind of walk you through how we manage our properties, and how we manage our deer herds. So our YouTube channel, Heartshot Outdoors, is going to hopefully have a lot of good content, as well as and we'll talk a little bit about this later, but the Midwest Whitetail YouTube channel is really just a fantastic one if you're looking to learn a few things, anything from shooting tips and tricks to how to hunt your property and how to hunt a certain wind, how to, where do you hunt a stand, where do you hunt a ground blind. All of those things are things that you will find on that YouTube channel. So last point,
All
Courtney.
right, number 5. So get the right gear. Do not set yourself up for failure by purchasing the wrong gear. And part of this can, as he was just saying, go online and research what you need and what works for other people. Try and get an opinion before you go and buy the gear that you need. When you have those mentors, like he was saying, or friends that hunt, whatever it might be, ask them for their opinions. Reach out to people. We all love helping and giving our opinions on different products, and that's how we team up with different companies. So, for example, if you're new to firearms and hunting and you're purchasing your first shotgun to deer hunt in Minnesota or something, you probably wouldn't go and buy a shotgun with iron sights. You might want one with a scope. And I actually have a relative who married into the family, and he did that on his first deer hunt, and he actually got a deer, so kudos to him.
Wow.
But when you don't have a scope on your gun and you've never really shot a shotgun before or gone deer hunting, it's like, if you don't get a deer the first year and then you don't get a deer the second year and maybe you shot and you missed or something, you're going to be like, oh, hunting sucks, But really, you kind of set yourself up for failure on that one, because you should have had a gun with a scope. And had you asked someone, you probably would know that.
And this one probably really connects with the do your homework one too.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like you talk to people in the stores, because those people oftentimes know just as much as anybody else.
Yep.
I know in my hometown archery shop, I would spend hours in the archery shop just talking to the guy behind the counter, asking him questions about broadheads and about arrows and what kind of sight I should shoot and how big of a stabilizer should I put on my bow. And all of those things, how much draw weight should I pull? Yep. All of those things are important things that we need to know as bow hunters.
And you might not know if you're a first-time bow hunter buying your first bow. You're not going to know anything probably about, draw length and the weight. And you just need to go and ask people. The people at the stores are there to help you. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent in archery shops or Cabela's or all that stuff. Definitely just ask questions.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to do a part of the segment at the end of the show where we recommend something for you guys to see. And I would love to recommend for you guys the Midwest Whitetails website. I know they have a podcast themselves. They do like daily, or not daily, but like weekly vlogs, just to kind of show you what their season looks like. And I think they're really the only company that does that. And it's just super interesting to watch them as they pick a deer out, they try to age him, they try to see him in season, and hopefully when they see him, they try to get him close, maybe double check on his age, see how old they think he is. And they really do a great job managing their deer herd. I know one of the big things that I've been watching recently is their shed hunting stuff. And it's incredibly interesting because shed hunting is something that I know everybody is excited to get out and do, but oftentimes the deer haven't even dropped their antlers when people are out there in February, in March. The deer's they're still holding their antlers, and so it's always interesting to watch them and see, that way I don't even have to go out to my farm. I can just say, well, the deer on Bill's property are still holding, so the deer on my property still probably haven't dropped either. So, and also, I have trail cameras out that are telling me also what if the deer have dropped or not. But so the shed hunting part is really big for me right now. But I know that they talk about everything. I know last week I think they had John Dudley on, who's a really big archer. Do you know what John Dudley is?
Yep.
He's a kind of a big name in the outdoor industry, and and he was just giving shooting tips. And so we hope that we can provide some of that as well, just a few things for you as well. But there are other sources also that do a really good job, and we're going to try and bring those to you and recommend those to you as well, for you guys and for your enjoyment and for the betterment of your hunting experience. So with that, we are going to go ahead and end our first podcast. Is there anything else you would like to add, Courtney?
Not really. I think we nailed it.
I hope so.
For first timers.
This is honest to God, this is our first take. We haven't done, so I'm really thankful that we got through it.
Me too.
But we got the first one out of the way, so hopefully the next one will be a little bit better, and we'll keep getting better and keep bringing you guys more and more content that hopefully you will enjoy. So this has been the Heartshot Outdoors podcast, and we hope to see you here next week.